established by Dr. Mohammed Batten, who's the president here at ABM College, and his vision has always been to provide students with a quality education so they can secure employment. And there can be dozens of applicants for any job, so part of securing employment is to stand out among the competition, among all the people who are applying for jobs. So today, I'm pleased to introduce you to two experts on the topic of standing out in today's job market. First, we have Angelah Kusero, a very passionate person on career educating, and she's been with Manpower for 8 years. Manpower is a staffing and employment agency here in Calgary, where she is the Workforce Development Manager. Welcome, Angelah. Thank you, sir. Next, we have Norman Poon, a chartered professional in human resources. And Norman has 18 years of business experience, and I can tell from meeting him that he's passionate about networking and relationship building. He's currently the co-founder and chief customer officer at Bitwide, which is a fractional sales provider for startups and medium-sized companies. Welcome, Norman. So let's get started with our first question, and I'll begin with you, Angelah. Okay. In your experience dealing with your clients at Manpower, what are some common questions or concerns that employers share with you when they're trying to fill their job openings? So common questions and concerns that your clients have about filling job openings.
Okay. Some of our clients have come and told me that one of the questions that they usually will receive from employers will mostly talk about how there's a skill and talent mismatch. So that would be one concern that they have. And then in this age of people being laid off and pivoting into different careers, is how do we explain our past experience and connect it to our current direction that we're going, especially if you're taking a training program or you're upskilling in any way. And the third concern is how would the person will be able to fit into their teams as well.
And how do you help them overcome that with the work that you do?
Well, yeah. So one of the things that we do is, as in Manpower, we are known to be connectors and talent manufacturers. That's one of the things that we usually do. So. Terms, can you hear me in the back? I'm soft spoken. You can hear me in the back without a mic? Okay. So in terms of connecting you to talent, so that's where, we always say come and connect to like a recruitment agency or a headhunter or job places that are connected to employers looking for people like you, connect to those people. The other way that we do it is with the talent, in terms of like talent manufacturing, is to help students or our clients or participants upskill or reskill into the gap that the company is looking for. So by micro-credentialing and all that, and connecting them to that specific employer. In terms of the fit, is about having conversation. Networking is really, really key. And if you're doing job searching and you're not networking, you're missing out on a big chunk of the market, right? So it's that piece of making sure that you're networking and creating networking opportunities both for job seekers as well as some of our clients, and bringing in employers and having them connected so that we can see the talent value.
Good, okay, good. It does sound like networking is important. You can't just be searching, but you have to network as well.
Absolutely.
Can I turn to you, Norman, and ask you a question about networking is a way to stand out in the job market. What else would you say is a way to stand out in the job market, or talk further about networking?
Sure. I'm pretty soft-spoken too. Actually, speaking of networking, that's exactly how I met Angelah. A coworker of mine was like, "Oh, Norman, I do this talk every so often about people looking for jobs." I said, "Oh, I would love to help." And he connected me with Angelah, and I don't know how many years, 10 years later, and we're still really good friends. So Angelah and I are still really good friends. So happy to be here with my friend Angelah here. So networking is about relationship building. One thing, the key thing about, I think one of the biggest mistake that people mistake about networking is not job searching. Networking is relationship building. And the reason why you should look at networking as relationship building is when you're looking for a job, when you're asking for a job, there's a huge power dynamic between you and the person you want to talk to because they have something to offer. But when you're looking at relationship building, I wasn't looking for a job. I would just say, I just like to sound my own voice. So I said, hey, Angela, would you give me a chance to talk some more? And Angela said, to her much, I don't know why she said yes, but she said, sure, come on in. And so it got me a chance to talk to people and network and build those relationships. And some of those people I got to know also through her class as well. So networking is about relationship building. It's about building that relationship, and it becomes more of a two-way street. Other things that help you stand out, I think what I'll also see, what I see is that people, the most successful candidates, no matter how bad the job economy is people who take initiatives, people who take control of their own career. They go out and develop their skills, like many of you here today, they develop their skills. They upgrade their skills. They go seek out experience. They take initiative to seek out experience. Volunteering, doing other work that seems interesting, seems fun. There's nothing wrong with having fun as part of your experience building. So that looks like fun. I'm going to build something. Volunteering doesn't have to be job related. A lot of times when you volunteer something that you're passionate about, the best side of you come out as well. And that is the side that becomes what people say, hey, you know what? I met Angela. Angela is so amazing that you should hire her. And she has something like that's part of that whole networking where you go out and having fun. So taking initiative, having fun, being passionate, and out there meeting people for the sake of meeting people, not just because you are looking for a job. To me, that's how you stand out. Is people who take ownership, who are interesting, who take initiative. Those are the interesting people that employer want to hire. People don't want to hire boring people. I don't want to hire boring people. I don't want to people like Angela.
When you're interviewing candidates, do you ask them that question? Like, what volunteers activities have you done, or do candidates normally just volunteer that they're volunteers?
So I generally don't ask that question. I try. Because I come from an HR background, so I try to stick to my question that is relevant. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bring it up. I mean, if you think your volunteer effort or your volunteer experience has job relevancy or transferable skills, bring it out. And here's a little thing. There's an imbalance in power as well. Candidates can search all they want on who they're interviewing. We have legally, we have a little bit more of that harder part about looking you up prior to the interview. So if you see that your interviewer does a lot of volunteering, has certain interests, bring it up. Or make yourself interesting, but how do you fit into the organization? If you see that organization is involved in certain social, corporate social responsibility, they're passionate about certain things, bring it up. You mean there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you're drawing commonality. I always talk to people. It's all about drawing commonality. People want you to work for them because they want to work with people who are like themselves. So you want to draw out that commonality. Hire me because I'm one of you. I'm like one of you. And those are people who are successful. People who can tell a great story and show the hiring manager how they are one of them and how they fit in. Andrew and I were just talking about the word fit. We love and hate that word.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when we have the right candidate, fit is amazing because it's very obvious. Unfortunately, a lot of times we also use fit as the reason as to why we decline the candidate.
Can you explain that further? If there's fit,
Yes.
and you decline a candidate, why would that be?
We said there's no fit.
Oh, as in no fit?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would, unfortunately, sometimes we'll tell candidates that, unfortunately, there's a candidate that better fit the role. So that becomes a way for us to explain why we didn't hire someone without really going to detail. So it's both, it's a double edged sword because when it's the right candidate, it is all about fit. It is that amazing thing. It's like, yes, that person is a great fit here.
Mm-hmm. Is there something a candidate can do during the job interview to show that they fit? Like, can they ask questions about what will be my day-to-day activities, or how are you as a boss, or things like that?
Those are great questions. I always ask those questions too when I'm interviewing. When I was interviewing, and I always like it when people ask me, "You mean what your expectation? What might my day-to-day look like? What are my expectations, or what your expectation of me?" I think those are all great. But I think there's also a key element of understanding, doing some pre-research of the company that you're going into. If you think of companies on a spectrum, you have a startup on one end of the spectrum, and you have a large corporation on the other end of the spectrum. Large corporations are going to be highly rigid, but highly predictable. Startup is going to be highly flexible, highly unpredictable. To some, chaos. Where on the spectrum do you want to go to work each day? Do you want to go to work each day being relatively predictable that I'll be doing what I'm doing every day? Or do you want to go to work each day and say, I'm excited to see what I'm walking into today? If you, by understanding where you want to fit on that thing, I think that becomes that whole fit issue. Because I work with candidates saying, I want to come into work every day knowing what I might be doing, or have a high percentage of knowing what I'm doing. Nothing wrong with that. But you're walking into a startup expecting to know what your everyday is going to look like, you're the wrong fit. If you're walking into a large corporation thinking every day is going to be somehow chaos, that is the wrong fit. So I think that's part of it. And then understanding who you're talking to. Does the company have a sense of humor, or they're very, very conservative? Again, some law firms are very, very conservative. You walk in there, while some law firms are having so. It's about understanding who you're walking into, and that fit becomes part of the personality of the organization. And do I fit that? Do I see myself working with these crazy people?
That's a great example to describe fit. Thank you. Is there something you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. And just with saying that, I think, to your point, it being a double-edged sword, for me, when I think about fit, it's how do I bring myself, my whole self to work, right? So when I go to my place of work, in a work environment, we're really encouraged to bring our whole selves to work each and every day. So my personality shows a lot, and how I display my passion for what I do. I show that at my work without any fear of who I am, right? So when it comes to an interview, the people who I've hired personally are people who I felt showcased more of that, to showcase their passion for what they'll be doing for us, but also had their personality shine through, especially when you're doing it through the virtual platforms. It's really hard to get that rapport. So that's a place, make sure you shine. One of the things that I usually advise most of my clients is if you're a person who gets stumbled by an interview question or a mock question, put a little picture of something that you love, a place that relaxes you, whether it's the beach, whether it's a picture of your partner right next to the camera. So if you get a question that stumbles you, rather than showing oh my gosh, that's a really hard question, you can glance at the picture and say, that was a really good question, and then you can continue smiling and buy yourself some time to answer that question, so that it showcases who you are and your passion and your intelligence, your skills, your experience. You can be able to show that in there. I usually follow up with a personal interview to make sure that I can see how you fit not only within the workplace, but also within the team itself, because I also have to worry as a hiring manager about the team dynamics, right? You can't put two very quiet people who don't want to do presentations, as naturally, and the role itself is requiring you 100% to be doing workshop facilitation, something like that, right? So that's where I think sometimes fit is really important.
Right.
To have that, and for you as a job seeker, making sure that you're showcasing it to an employer right on that first first meeting, because within the first 15 minutes of an employer meeting you, they can tell whether you're going to be a fit or not a fit for their.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, to know what the role entails.
Yeah.
And you'll describe that too,
Yeah.
as the employer.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be able to differentiate sometimes as an employer whether this person is just shy or it's a case of they never want to do that side of their role. So like guest speaking, for example, doesn't come naturally to most people. So having that. One of the things that I do as an employer when I see somebody, because culturally I know like we can't describe our skills, and we stay humble and we don't want to, be out there being very you feel like you're bragging, right? One of the questions they're asking in the interview is, if you were hiring for this role, what are some of the skills or experiences that you've been looking for? And I'm usually amazed at how people say, well, I'll be looking for communication is really key, attention to detail will be really key because of this, and in my past experience I have done this, right? So start understanding yourself as a person and some of the skills that you have and how that can bring a solution to an employer, but also understand your personality and understand the company's culture as well, and see how you can tie that together before you go to the interview. Do your research and get to see how you can explain that to them.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I saw on your LinkedIn activity that you made a post with a saying, if you have the power to make someone smile, do it.
Absolutely.
Do you think that's a way for a candidate to stand out during an interview?
Absolutely. If you're a positive person, most of the times people will see that. When I was job searching, I moved from Nova Scotia in 2015, and I was looking for work. And I'm in career education, and I know how to write a resume, I know how to network, I know how to do that. But what I knew was that my magic sauce is how I showed up, and with a smile. So when I was looking for work on those days, I have talked to myself as soon as I walked out the door. I say to myself, I'll get an interview today, or if I don't get an interview today, it'll be tomorrow. But I started with every interaction that I met on that day. The bus driver, and to date it's still a habit that I do. If I get off the train, I will knock on the driver's window and wave at them and say hello to them. Now they know me. Sometimes I even come out and they'll be right there smiling, and that means a lot to them. With a security guard, if I'm going for an interview, start with the security guard downstairs, start smiling and having a conversation. The receptionists, because they are the gatekeepers. When I was working in Nova Scotia for a recruitment company, and also in my company, a lot of employees would come back to the reception and say, hey, by the way, what did you think about that candidate? If you were rude to the person or you didn't interact well, most of the times the resume will go into
Right.
in that.
Right.
So your attitude determines your altitude. And it starts with a smile. So keep that when you're looking for those when you're looking for work.
Yeah. Oh, very good saying.
Yeah.
Your attitude determines your altitude. Back to you, Norman.
Sure.
So given your background in tech and the different platforms that are out there to search for jobs, what do you think are the most effective ways to search for jobs?
I think, the big gorilla is still Indeed. Indeed is both a blessing and a curse for both employer and candidates. It's a blessing for employees, for candidates, because it makes your life easy. It's a curse for all candidates because it makes everyone's life easy. It's a blessing for employers because we get a lot of resumes. And obviously you see where I'm going with this one. It's a curse for employers because we get a lot of resumes. So Indeed is this big monster that obviously everyone's got to play with, and they've done a very good job of reinventing that whole category. I tell this story all the time just to date myself. When I was in university, I was doing a mentorship program. So my mentor was with Stantec, which is still was more of a mid-sized company, not a large global company that you see today. just again, date myself here, but he was really excited to show me how Stantec has moved on to this monster platform. It's like, this is the coolest thing ever. You mean we can have, we no longer have to spend thousands of dollars posting in a newspaper, again, dating myself. But again, now we don't even do that. So Indeed's obviously the platform, but ultimately I think I'm going to steal this from a friend of mine, Colin. I think his best way to do it is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You can spend your first third of each day, a third of your week, doing formal, going through the formal process, the Indeeds of the world, the applicant tracking of the world. You mean you gotta go through the whole process. Then you spend 1/3 of your week doing reaching out to talking to people that you want to talk to. So either that's through meeting other people, LinkedIn becomes a big part of that thing, part of the game. So networking, and then the last third is that you spend talking to real people or interacting with people that you aspire to, places that you aspire. So it's that 1/3. So platform-wise, you got those one, and then you got some minor platform and job-specific platform that comes into play. But again, Indeed is the big gorilla. I think Google is pretty good in the sense of that you have something very, very specific that you want to search for or companies that you want to work with. But to me, purely from a job search perspective, is until someone reinvent a new Indeed, Indeed is their big gorilla.
Mm-hmm. When someone's looking at the job postings on Indeed, is there something they can pick out to help themselves stand out that you see in job postings?
For sure. When I teach people looking for jobs, I always said, break down their job requirements into thirds. Look for two things. Well, first thing, break down the job requirement into thirds. The top third is always must-haves. These are deal breakers. So when I used to hire for nurses, because I use that as an example, number one, a nurse manager, number one thing is that you must be a registered nurse. Seems reasonable. I have waffle owner, engineers, mechanics. You know, you can be the world's greatest whatever, but if you don't have an RN, I don't care. Or if you're a healthcare aide, if you don't have a healthcare experience certificate, I don't care. Or you're not a CPA, and I'm looking for a CPA, I don't care. But that's usually within the first third of each job posting. The second third is what I like to term nice to have. Now, and I'm going to speak this because a lot of people feel like they need to hit 100% of that middle part for them to be a fit. The reality is, if you hit 2/3 maybe, you're probably a great candidate. In fact, hitting 2/3 makes you a better candidate, ironically speaking, than someone who hits everything. Because people hit everything, or my most expensive candidate and my least tenured candidate. Because they've done everything already, so why should they stick around?
Yeah.
So, but if you hit about 2/3, those are probably my better candidate. And the last third are what I call fillers. Those are where you read excellent teamwork, excellent detail orientation, excellent whatever. How do I know this filler? Andrew, I hear this joke all the time already, because I use this example. Find me a job posting that company asks for average teamwork, mediocre team player, below average communication skills. Find me one and I'll stop using this joke. No one has called me out on it. So to me, that's those. If you break down those thirds, you will know exactly that. And repetition. Is there something that they keep mentioning over and over and over in the job posting? If they keep telling you about conflict resolution, conflict management over it, chances are you're walking into a workplace with a lot of conflict, or you're dealing with a lot of conflict. If customer service is being repeated over and over and over again, chances are there's a lot of customer interaction. So to me, those are the key things that you're picking as repetition and breaking down job posting into thirds.
Mm-hmm. So to look at what's being repeated, you can look at other postings from that same
Correct.
company.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Is there certain things that they are thinking? One of my favorite Calgary companies that I love using as an example is Righteous Gelato. If you ever get a chance, check out Righteous Gelato's website. Have you seen it?
Yes, they want disruptive lettuce.
Oh no, Righteous Gelato does this fun. These are fun posting that they do.
Yeah.
If you ever check, again, go check out Righteous Gelato. As I like to talk to them, because they talk about what they do, what their expectations are. But what I like about them is that they deliver in a way that is very representative of them as an organizational culture. It's fun, it is irrelevant, yet they communicate clearly what their expectations are. So if you read that article, if you read that job posting, it's like, that seems highly unprofessional. Chances are you're the wrong fit. if you read the thing and say funny and say, this is the place I want to be, chances are that you'll be the right fit.
Right, and that would come through in the interview if
Yes.
you're the right fit, yeah. Angela, given your experience at a staffing agency, there's many ways to apply for a job. You can go in person, you can apply online, you can go in through a back door if you can find one. What are the most effective ways to apply for a job?
I would say one of the ways that we have the staffing agency, and on the workforce development side, I can share what my fellow colleagues on recruitment sites do,
Yeah.
as well as past recruitment agencies that I've worked for do. You need to network with them as well. And by networking with them doesn't mean that in person, because sometimes they're just so busy, there are a lot of jobs that are coming in at them. But on LinkedIn, right? If you update your resume, you've added, let's say you've graduated from ABM and you just got this really new course and now you're looking for this type of employer, send them a quick note on LinkedIn and say, hey, just letting you know I'm still looking for a job. I've recently updated my resume because I graduated in XYZ. Here is my most current resume. Because I find recruiters will reach out to people who they know, because you're building that relationship. To Norman's point, it's all about that relationship building. The perfect relationship is the one that the recruiter will find you before the job is even posted online. Right? Because they have built that relationship with you. So start connecting with them on LinkedIn. They usually have an interview with you. They will tell you, you can talk to them about what you're looking for, where do you see yourself in 5 years, are you what type of work you're looking for, so that they can be that advocate between you and the employer. Right? So they will know, like, okay, this employer, this is a must-have for them. So by the time they come and reach out to you, they know, okay, you have all the qualifications that this particular employer is looking for, versus you taking a guess, like, oh yeah, do they need this? Do they not need this? So they're like, I usually say, like, they're like the class 15 of from you being one building and them getting you to the other side. So that's one thing I love. And when I have a recruiter who I have a good relationship with, is the one who will vouch for me in front of an employer, especially when you're pivoting from a different profession to another employer. They can say, wait, I know this is what their resume says right now. However, you really need to meet this person because they have this personality, these are some of their transferable skills. I've had a chat with them, just meet with them, and then you can have a conversation. So I would say LinkedIn would be your best to start building those relationships, and attending events is really, really big. When I was looking for work here, I found I had a meeting with 55 strangers in Calgary by booking, again, those coffee meetings with people on LinkedIn and reaching out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for work, or I'm pivoting to this specific area. Do you have any free insights that you could share with me? And you'd be amazed at how many Calgarians were just willing to open themselves up and provide me the space or introduce me to somebody else who might be looking for somebody like me. There are even some of them who created a job like for me to be able to get into their teams as well. So it's a good way for you to reach out in that sense. And with the recruiters, the better relationship you have with them, the better chances are that they will put you forward to some of them. Because to Norman's point, people hire people who they know, right? And we can vouch for them. So create those relationships now.
Mm-hmm. That applies to sales too. People buy from people they know. So you described a couple things that you can reach out to a recruiter, let them know you've updated your resume or completed a course. Let's say you've run out of things. What else can you send a note to a recruiter about?
I think just asking them to like what's whole package, and then something might click where they might be looking for and saying that, yeah, we're noticing that there's this software that employers are looking for in, let's say, business intelligence, right? I'm noticing there's a trend of employers asking for this in the job postings. Do you have any of this? And then you can light up that spark in having that conversation. So I would say just following up, and sometimes even asking them that, what kind of other roles they are looking for. And you can also make referrals to them by
Right.
referring other good people. And that's that whole
Oh,
relationship
yeah.
building that you might be doing as well. Pointing them out to them if you find events that might be relevant to them, and sending them information and saying, hey, have you heard about this event? Will you be attending
Oh,
this
for sure.
one? And connect to them there as well. So there are different ways that you can reach out to them.
Yeah.
And don't be mad at them when they don't reply immediately, because sometimes they're super busy with the work that they do. So give them time, right? But if you have a good relationship with someone, they will get back to you. I've had people who got it back to me in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, and I've learned to quit not taking it personally in a long time. So I know that people are busy and understanding that aspect, but just don't give up in contacting different.
Good, and those are good examples to keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
with-
yeah,
with
absolutely.
them. Yeah, okay. Norman, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You have experience with new immigrants
Correct.
to Canada, and what advice do you give them when they may be new to the country and looking to transition to a new industry, for example?
For sure. So I'm going to start off by contradicting my friend Angela here.
We always do this, by the
Look at
way.
this, yeah.
But we're still friends.
We're still friends. Networking with recruiter is important, don't get me wrong. Recruiter gives you insight into a lead, but I'm a big believer that you should the bulk of your time is not spent networking with recruiters. The bulk of your time should be focused on what I call influencers and decision makers. Influencers are your future peers who can influence the hiring manager. Decision makers are obviously the people who are going to be your boss or your boss's boss. Those are the ones who are going to get to know you and make those decisions. I love recruiter. I have earned a living being a recruiter, both in-house and out-house. I love Manpower because Manpower is the one who placed my spouse in one of her jobs. So again, nothing against recruiter, as I said, coming from a guy who loves recruitment. But your focus is really on influencers and decision makers. So going back to the new immigrants, you want to reach out to influencers. People, again, it can be family, friends, if you belong to a church or a mosque or a temple. Those are your network. Those are people say, hey, I'm new here, how can I get to? Do you know someone who knows someone that you can connect me to? And to Angela's point, most people want to help.
Yeah.
Ask them nicely and give them a reason to help you. Now, one of my soapbox things that I love to stand on and talk about on new immigrant is Canadian experience. Let me tell you what Canadian experience really means. Canadian experience really means, ooh, you're a little risky. I'm not sure if you would fit in. So I'm going to pick a less risky candidate. That's all Canadian experience is really telling. That's what the code for Canadian experience. So that's why when people have Canadian experience, what they're really saying to the employees, look, I've been successful in a Canadian workplace. I'm a low risk candidate. I'm a similar risk candidate to every other candidate that you see. That is what a Canadian experience is. So what that means is that because a lot of new immigrants come to Canada, so they take one of two paths to get their job. They go back to school and get a certificate, which is good, or the path that's less traveled, is they network their way because it's scary it is uncomfortable, it is something that they're not used to, they don't have a network built up. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know the story that Angela reached up to 55 strangers. That is grit, that is tenacity, and that's what makes Angela so successful, is that whole grit of, you know what, I'm not afraid of failing. What's the worst they can do? Say no, and if new immigrants coming to Canada can take the same attitude, say, you know what, I'm tenacious, I'm likable, everyone here is likable, I'm sure, and reach out to people and say, hey, can I get some advice? I'm new to Canada, I'm new to Calgary, this is what I have, what is some advice for me, or is there a path for me to go? And either that's going through re-education, or that's just purely networking because we have those basic skills already. So that's generally speaking.
Good. Do you have anything to add for how new
Yeah, no.
immigrants can maybe transition or find work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, well, to be in front of somebody who can see you and vouch for you, because it's all about connect. That's why I think me and Norman are very passionate about what we do, and that's why we do a lot of this guest speaking that we do, because I have come from that experience, and I know what it feels like to be job searching at the same time. But the one thing that I have learned is when you put yourself out there, the first time I almost had a panic attack, but it gets better the more you talk to people. Take advantage of your career counselors in providing those mock interviews. Practice with your colleagues in your classes, with your family, so that when you're in front of somebody, you can really articulate what you're looking for, and you can, your skills and experiences can shine in front of that particular person. Book those coffee meetings. Don't be afraid. Reach out to strangers on LinkedIn. I reached out to 55 of them, and all of them bought me coffee, apart from 2, where I had mixed up the appointment, and the other one had forgotten their wallet. And up to today, some of them are my mentors. I call them. They would call me. They were calling employers in the first meeting that I had with them and said, "Have you met Angelah yet?" Right? So put yourself out there. The more people you meet, your network is your net worth, especially in Calgary, because it's about who you know and who's going to be able to vouch for you. And we all, we share that experience with you, because we also want you to put yourself out there and to be successful in your next roles and all that. But there are people who don't do it alone. Take the help, because there's resources and help and programs to help you to get to your next step. It's harder when you do it on your own.
Can I share just a quick story? I'll promise to be quick. This is about January of 2020. So I was speaking at one of these events, similar to this event. So after the event, this amazing woman came up to me and introduced herself, say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and thank you very much for coming out to speak today." So I said, and in my obvious curious fashion, "Tell me about yourself." You know what I mean? Because I'm curious, I'm nosy, and I like to know about people. So she said, "Oh, I do digital marketing. I just came to Canada from Russia." So, oh, really? What she didn't realize was we were looking to hire someone, and she fit the skill exactly. So I want to say one thing is, congratulate yourself for having the courage today to come up, because she came from Russia to Canada in November of 2019. She stepped out. She decided to come to one of these talks by herself on a random day, and decided to have the courage to come up and introduce herself. And just like that, she landed a job with me. Just pure course now. That isn't always happen, but I just want to say, congratulate yourself and pat yourself on the back for having the courage to come up today, because believe it or not, it takes courage to say, I'm going to leave the comfort and safety of my home to come and sit and get to know a bunch of strangers. So give yourself the courage and give yourself an applause for coming up today.
Very good story, Norman. Networking, getting out there and networking has definitely been a theme that we've talked about. So now we're going to open it up to questions to see if there's any things you want to ask further about, or any questions you've had, or want our speakers to expand further on anything you've heard. So we have a question here.
Yeah, I have a question. So I help so many candidates every day as a career counselor. Most of them has a common question like, what is the timeline they're looking for when they apply for a job? How long they have to wait for a response, right? So like they have applied multiple jobs and still waiting for a response. They get disappointed. So
I usually say before you leave any interview, that's a question that you should ask, right? When should I expect hearing from you? If they say, we're expecting to hear from you in 2 weeks' time, and give them the space, because they're obviously making decisions in terms of the background. There's usually like budget decisions. They're also interviewing other candidates, so give them that space to be able to evaluate that. After this, the second week mark that they have given you, you can follow up and say, hey, just like to reiterate your interest, if you have some more things that you want to add in that note to showcase why you're still the best candidate for that particular role, you can add that in that note. And I would say 2 is usually the max for me in terms of like a follow-up, and if I don't hear anything, no answer is an answer.
Yeah.
I would say one more thing. Again, cursive Indeed and the blessed cursive Indeed. I strongly, based on what I've seen and the statistics that I've collected from past, I usually get about 80% of all my candidates. I usually get 50% of all my candidates within the first 48 hours of posting. That's just my numbers. I'm not sure the data is different, but that's what I've seen. I usually get about roughly 80% of all my candidates within the first week. So if you're waiting 2-3 weeks to apply on Indeed, chances are your resume will never get seen, unless it's a very niche position where there's few and far. But if it's entry level or it's a position that has lots of candidates, chances are once you pass the first week, I already set a baseline saying, you know what, I have already decided the level of candidates that I'm willing to see. So unless someone comes in and really wows me, my tolerance is very limited. So a lot of those resumes will never get a chance, might not even get considered because I have so many candidates in front of me that I deem to be good candidates. So unfortunately, all of it is within the 48 hours, within the first week, I would say, you need to apply for a job, especially on Indeed, especially for a role that potentially could have a lot of candidates. And to Angela's point about how long to wait, my rule of thumb is if they give you 2 weeks and you heard back from them in 1 week, that's usually a very good sign. If you hear them back up to 2 weeks, that's usually a question of, unfortunately, that usually means that you're not going on, because within that 2 weeks, they potentially within that 2 weeks, sometimes they're scheduling second interviews within that 2 weeks because they potentially don't want to let you go as a candidate. I know, bad employer, bad hiring manager, but I might not want to let you go as a candidate, but you haven't met their cutoff for me to immediately grab a hold of you either. So that's usually a lot of the psychology in play. Say, we like this candidate enough that we might bring this person back, but we really like these two better. So we're going to see what these two bring before we decide if we're going to bring the third or fourth candidate in.
That's good insight.
Yeah, I'd also like to add to that, and this is my role, actually my current role at Manpower. I applied for it, had 2 fantastic interviews, which I really enjoyed. And they told me they were going to get back to me in 2 weeks because somebody was going, the HR manager, I think, was out on vacation. So on the second week, I didn't hear anything. And on the third week, I was actually drafting my letter to my manager and saying, hey, by the way, just following up and checking in on, if you've come to a decision and all that. And as I was writing that letter, she was also sending me a note and saying, I am so sorry we hadn't gotten back to you yet. We just had a few moving pieces on the back end, but we do want to make an offer for you, and this is our offer, and this is when we anticipate for you to start. So sometimes it can come in a little bit later, depending on what is happening on the background. It is important as employers, as hiring managers, to keep the clients and candidates informed during the process. Unfortunately, sometimes they even don't know themselves, especially sometimes with recruiters, they don't even know, or maybe the company has changed their mind in terms of like the direction that they're going. So sometimes there's that, you'll get no answer because there's just so many things happening in the background. So give yourself grace. It's not about you, it's about them. So that's how I look at it.
Good. Any other questions? We have time for a couple more.
I have a small question for you. Thank you for providing the glimpse about the dynamics of networking, job hunt, and public relations. Now coming directly to my question is like, for instance, I need to apply in a Bitwide company. How could I know to whom I should contact?
So who do you know what to contact? So a lot of times you don't. I mean, a lot of times you don't, and that's okay. I think the whole idea of who should I address this cover letter to kind of fell by the wayside in the last 10 years or so. I don't think people care that much. I think where it is that you want to be smart about who it logically is. So in a small company, chances are you would probably have a pretty good guess on who you'd be reporting to. In a large company, there could be multiple of the same person. So, and the beauty of LinkedIn is that you probably have a pretty good guess. But again, if you're never sure, I think to me, my biggest pet peeve, if I in the resume say you will be reporting to the manager of marketing, and I read the letter, so I tell you right on the posting that you'll be reporting to the manager of marketing. Sorry, yeah, thank you. And then all I see is dear sir, man, or to two minutes. It's like, come on. I mean, I gave you the answer already. You mean, have you even read the job posting? So to me, having the name is important. But if I give you that information, I like to see it being reciprocated, that you pay attention that I've given you the answer, and you acknowledge that I gave you the answer.
I agree, and to Norman's point, looking for those clues in the job description is really, or in the job description is really important. Reporting to, I'll look on LinkedIn. I was like, who does this job report to? And then you can guess sometimes the email, how the email will be as well, and that's usually good follow-up, especially apply according to how the employer wants it. If they want you to apply through Indeed, apply through there. But on the second day, sometimes I do follow up with looking at the email addresses and seeing how they do it, like first name, last name, and then at manpower.com, and then I'll follow up and say, hey, I've applied it. Especially in those roles where I'm pivoting and my experience and my resume might not really necessarily match to their job description, but I know that I can do the job. I'll usually do a follow-up that way so that I can stand out in front of that employer. So I think that's one of the good tips that you can find on Google and on LinkedIn for free these days as a job seeker.
And there's a lot of email checkers that you say, is this email valid? So you can punch this through. Yeah. So, and generally speaking, it's one of three or four variants. First name, first name dot last name, all in one word, or just first name. You punch that through these email checkers. There are a bunch of them out there. And then it'll tell you where you've been high probability.
Thank you.
If I just want to follow up on that. If you're looking for a job and you look at the roles of the people and they have LinkedIn profiles, and you go to that person's page, if they look back at your page, which may happen, what can you do on your LinkedIn profile to stand out?
Do not connect with anybody if your LinkedIn page is not complete, right? I usually look at it like if you're calling if somebody's calling me with an unknown number, I'm not answering that call because I do not know who you are unless they leave a voice message, and then I'll reach out to them. Same thing, LinkedIn. If you don't have your picture, if you don't have a summary, if your resume does not match your LinkedIn, those are little things that you can do to ensure that you stand out. Tell them their story. That part of the summary on the LinkedIn, that's like your real estate, right? Especially when you're making connections from one career to another career, like where you see yourself in the last 5 years. It's a place that you can, really showcase your personality as well. So take advantage of, that space in terms of that connecting to that particular employer. LinkedIn is really, really big. It's a really big tool in the professional world. if you're looking for work right now. And people without any digital footprint, some people say like, I don't like social media, you know, it's not Facebook or Snapchat or whatever. Have at least a LinkedIn profile, because if you don't have a digital footprint, it can come off as a red flag to some employers as well. So work on that and make sure that it's really good. A great picture, not a picture of you on, I've seen some with cats and spouses and weddings and, you know, just make sure it's just a nice professional picture that you can take in. And there's a lot of programs that they have. They offer free LinkedIn pictures for you, so you can, the library has a program, I think, one of them, sometimes they have like people who had to take your headshots as well. There's some career fairs, they may have an event where they'll take your headshot. We just had one at an industry fair that people can come in and get headshots as well. It's easy, so make sure it's legit.
Good. You're nodding away, Norman. Is there anything more?
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with everything Angelah says. For me, it's about storytelling. What does the story of your LinkedIn tells? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be your resume. It could be the profile that you want to project to the outside world. Someone will just stumble upon you. So to me, that's in addition to everything Angelah said. It's about the story that you want to tell, and does it make sense? Because one of the hardest things about LinkedIn is one thing that I always see is that people on their LinkedIn, I look at it and say, what do you want again? Why are you connecting with me? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yes.
So again, what is the story? There's no right or wrong answers. It's the image, the profile that you want to show to the world. Because you have full control over that. So it doesn't have to be your resume. It can be something interesting. It can be a way that's this is how I want to position myself for the next job.
Yeah, that's good. And it all has to match. That just builds trust in
Yes.
you as well.
And to his point, if you're connecting with anybody on LinkedIn, please customize it, the connection message, because when you have recruiters or hiring managers or employers, or we meet so many people, so sometimes it's really hard for us to remember who you might be. And also, to Norman's points, is the story, right? How can I help you? Because I want to make sure that when I'm reaching out to you, like I'm already thinking of, oh, I'll connect this person to this person, and you know, I can already see this job that when I look at your profile that might be a fit for you. So when we have the conversation, I'm able to tie those together. So, you know, do write those connection messages, and most people won't accept a connection just as an empty connection list. They'll ghost you or block you.
Right.
My formula for connection message: you draw commonality, you enter flattery. Commonality. Why are you reaching out? Flattery always works. And then the ask. The ask in the first, obviously, invite is let's connect. And then in the future, it could be a question, it could be a meeting, it could be whatever. But the thing that though, I always tell people, you only get one ask per message. Any more than one ask per message, people get confused, they just don't have the patience to answer 10 questions from you. But if you ask 10 times, they'll answer all 10 questions.
Yeah.
But if you ask 10 questions right off the bat, I can guarantee you, very few people will spend the time to answer those 10 questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. That applies in marketing too. When you run an ad, one spot, one thought.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Keep it to one.
You forgot your best tip.
Which is my best thing.
Flattery.
Oh, flattery, yes, I said flattery always works. That's my favorite. So, I mean, a LinkedIn message could be saying, hey, I met you, to Angelah, say, hey, I met you, hi Angelah, I met you at this event, at the ABM Career Talk. You were so amazing, Angelah. Can we connect? My chances, I would be hard pressed to believe Angelah would say, nah. Hint, hint, hint.
And that's how we stay connected. But it is true. People who have taken the message to, connect with me and they've written a message. I think one of my favorite is somebody who connected me and they actually created a meme saying, talking about our connection, and he was reaching out to me because he's a digital marketer. And those are times like the not a meme, but a GIF. or gift, whatever you call it, or however you pronounce it. But he connected to me and he threw in a gift that and had my name, and I knew that was, he created that because my last name Angelah, and my name Angelah has a H at the end, and it's very unique for how it's spelled. And I was like, we're still connected to this day in terms of like the marketing materials that we actually do together. But it was just such a nice way of him reaching out as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds nice. All right, that brings us to the end of the hour. I want to thank you both for great insights, a lot of good insights, and let's give them a round of applause.